Italy votes as far-right candidate Giorgia Meloni looks for victory. Now voting is underway in Italy's general election. Polling stations opened 2 hours ago. Opinion poll then taken during the campaign suggests the country will get its first ever female prime minister and its first far-right leader since Mussolini. And Giorgia Meloni, I went for her party, would be expected to see the returns of Silvio Berlusconi and Matteo Salvini to government. Two men who've had ties to Russia's President Putin. Our own correspondent Mark Rowan reports there are some things that Italians agree on. They've got the best coffee and food, and many they don't. Politics is one of them, and it's the fourth day is a crunch election. It was sparked in July when the Prime Minister Mario Draghi lost the support of his coalition partners who called Super Mario had stabilized this politically volatile country amidst the COVID pandemic and war in Ukraine. Giorgia Meloni's far-right brothers of the Italy has led the poll of she wants fair tax cuts, a naval blockade of Libya to stop migrant war, and his hard line to LGBT rights. Her party has neo-fascist roots, but the vehemently rejects the label. She is coalition with ultra-nationalist League of Matteo Salvini and the ex-Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi, known as much for his Burga Bunga sex parties as his center-right politics, fighting them in Enrico Letta, pro-Europe and pro-civil rights, but he failed to form a broad center-left coalition. He fell out with the once anti-establishment five-star movement that came top last time but has plumbed at its hoping its social welfare politics will save it now. So how will the poll affect of the war in Ukraine? Mario Draghi has been a big supporter to Kiev, and while Giorgia Meloni backs that her coalition partners have had close ties, the Vladimir Putin and Salvini has even suggested dropping sanctions on Moscow due to the energy crisis and matters both here with the Italy perhaps about to elect its first woman prime minister and first far-right leader since Mussolini, and abroad with implication for its relationship with Europe. But this country's had almost 70 governments since the Second World War, so we might just be back here again next year. Well, let's go live. Toy Europe correspondent Jessica Parker, who's in Verona in northern Italy. Here, Jessica. So what is our people they're saying to you about their concern and what they'll be voting about? Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think the most striking things talking to people is the sense of apathy, or rather people are just a bit fed up there that they're having to go to the polls after the collapse of Mario Draghi Unity's government in the summer, and certainly quite a lot of people I've spoken to yesterday ahead of polling day says didn't ever even know who they were going to are voting. But in terms of the issues that people talk about, tax often comes. So I think Giorgia Meloni pledge of tax cut has gone down quite well with voters here in northern Italy. We're in a region that is a relatively wealthy part of the country, but that policy does seem to be a popular, although the center left as well as a promising a level of tax cuts. Immigration comes up an issue as well as that people want to see a tough line on, and energy cost now that's of course an issue familiar with people across Europe at the moment. Surging energy costs a real problem for households, for businesses, as well as really want to see some help of further people on that. So I think those are some of the kinds of key issues that come up when you speak or to voter here as the head of the polls. Yeah, Jessica, and Giorgia Meloni has talked openly but about doing more. She says to talked openly but about she says that to defend Italian national interest, how concerned and the EU are by her possible election and what might happen thereafter. I think it's a bit of a mixed picture actually. So you're right, she's talked about arresting Italy's national interest. That the EU has already been battling with Hungary's Viktor Orban, and so there's this scene that if you want another nationalist into the mix, that it's going to be a very problematic for the European Union. Italy, of course, and the third largest economy with EU. It really matters what happened here. However, some diplomats I've spoken to in Brussels is relatively relaxed about the situation because they think if she does become prime minister in some sort of coalition, domestic issues are going to keep her very busy, and she softened her tone in terms of the EU over recent year. So I think it's quite hard at the moment to know for sure how big the impact could be on Brussels, but of course. The outgoing Prime Minister Mario Draghi very much liked Tim Brussels, former head of the European Central Bank. So I think it's Giorgia Meloni does become a Prime Minister of Italy. So it's certainly going to be seen as something of a challenge for the European Union. As I say that, I already feel they are dealing with that the regard as errant nationalist governments in Poland, but particularly Hungary, and they wouldn't want a Viktor Orban, the Prime Minister, there to have another ally in the room. Okay, Jessica and Verena, thank you.